That's my secret, cat. I'm always angry.
Alright. I ran out of patience. On the roost!
Hey everyone, Captain, big fan of Spider-Man.
Avengers! Assemble.
Hello, Peter.
Hello and welcome back to the Infinity Saga and Beyond, an MCU fan podcast. We're breaking down What If, penultimate episode here, episode 8 out of 9. I'm Jordan Wiegand, and with me, as always on this journey into What If, Jack Seepers out. How are you?
Doing very well. Finished up another week of school, so it's always good, and it's always fun to talk about What If, especially this episode, because it was pretty cool.
Pretty cool indeed. Let's go through it real quick. What If, episode 8 was called What If Ultron Won, directed by Bryan Andrews, written by Matthew Chauncey, originally released September 29th on Disney Plus with a runtime of 30 minutes. The synopsis here. Natasha, Romanoff, and Clint Barton seek to destroy killer robot Ultron following a cataclysmic event. You kind of talked about it, but what was your initial thoughts here on episode 8, What If Ultron Won?
Oh, well, there was a lot of cool details in this one. I love to see more of Ultron as a villain because I thought he was an interesting villain with some wasted potential, I think, in Age of Ultron. And also it was good to see, some more, perhaps a bit more interesting Hawkeye than what we've gotten in the MCU in iterations past. And also, there's just, it's hard to pick just like a few details to point out because this was, I think this could be my favorite episode. It's very close to it. At least it competes very heavily with the Strange Supreme episode.
Yeah, we got to see him at the end here, but it's probably my favorite one. I think it was really kind of like the ultimate what if storyline, right? What if Ultron won? We got to still see like almost every character in the MCU here at times. And it was just fun. And then we really got to the good stuff of the Watcher, which we're going to talk about as we get a little bit more into it. So let's kind of go through the plot here. So, we kind of open up with Black Widow and Hawkeye going through this like desert wasteland, right, of Russia, which is all like nuclear snow, right? I guess that's what it's supposed to be. Not like
it's a nuclear
not like regular
winter,
snow, right? It's like a
nuclear winter, yeah.
And they're they have 90 seconds. We find out that they just say start the timer. You don't know what the 90 seconds is for, but when they actually defeat all the Ultron bots, they say that 90 seconds they relay like that information to the main Ultron, which would then trigger him to, I guess, know their location, which I thought was interesting. But we got to see, I think, an exaggerated Hawkeye where, he was doing things that we probably couldn't ever get Jeremy Renner to do, just like how fast he's able to draw the bow and stuff. But it was really cool. What do you think of this opening sequence here? Because, we knew it was Ultron episode because of the teasers and the title and stuff, but we also talked about a post-apocalyptic Black Widow episode that turned out to be this one. So what was your just thoughts on like the opening setting here and the fact that these are the only two Avengers to have survived?
Well, I think it's really interesting because we know throughout the MCU that these two have like a good chemistry between them. So I think it's interesting. I'm not sure how it lines up with the events of Age of Ultron because, my thinking would be if any two survive, it should and it including Black Widow, based off of Age of Ultron, it should be Black Widow and Banner. But I still think it's a good pairing. I also think I appreciated the Hawkeye without his arm, like missing an arm, because I'm not sure if you're aware of the Phase 2 running gag, but it was heavily based off of Part 2 of the Star Wars trilogy, where every character in each movie loses some body part, or specifically an arm or a hand. So I like how they kind of threw a nod in here to keep that going, since it takes place during Age of Ultron.
I knew that was the thing. I just always forget it until people talk about it. Honestly, I had no idea that it was a reference to it this time. I was just like, oh, interesting. He's lost an arm.
That's what I think it is. It's not like a confirmed
no, it
thing
probably
or anything, but
I would say it probably is, since this would take place during phase 2. My whole thing with these two being the only ones, and I think some people might call BS on that, right? But I think one thing we don't recognize, I guess, is that these are two like spies,
right,
that know how to go underground, right? Like, the thing is, when you have people like Cap and Iron Man and Hulk, even to your point, is that they're going to come out and try to defeat Ultron. They're going to try to punch him to death, the way that we'll see Captain Marvel try to do. And it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work for them. So they're smart. They find out the 90-second thing, and they can go around and do all of their stuff as long as they're able to defeat those drones within 90 seconds. I don't even know if Ultron knows these two are alive, right? Like, that's the way I picked up on it.
He clearly doesn't, because when he defeats everything, he sets off the nuclear bomb and everything, he's like, it's over, I've won. And like so it's pretty clear that he doesn't know that they're about. So
right.
I think that's pretty interesting that they're able to do it. But that's a good point, that this is kind of their whole thing. They're very good at avoiding being tracked in any situation. So it does make sense that they are the last two alive.
And they were lucky to be on the helicopter. I mean, on the Quinjet,
True.
when
yeah.
the bombs went off, they're dead. They can't survive a nuclear bomb. But
it does help to be in an area that isn't hit by a nuclear bomb, I will say, for your chances of survival. But
could we have seen Clint have a third arm, though, because of the nuclear radiation or something?
Yeah, that would have been pretty funny to see. Hey,
like a robotic arm and another arm like coming out of
double
his
the
head
bows, just alternate between two bows and just fire off with the free hand. There you go.
Kind of like if you ever seen the Spider-Man with like the 6 arms.
I
had a toy of that growing up, but yeah, I mean that would be because of nuclear waste, I guess. But I thought it was cool then when, the Watcher's explaining all this, how we get to see, I know people are probably upset, Tony Stark dying again.
I
But
thought
we
it was
also
funny.
see,
I know,
I laughed. I laughed too, because all the other ones were already dead except for him at that point.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, okay, they're going to kill him again. It's funny. It's almost like a South Park gag, which I've never, I don't watch South Park, but like I know the gag of Kenny.
Yeah.
And, oh my God, you killed Tony. Is pretty much what it is. But I thought that was great. I always love seeing, as twisted as the Avengers dead, like having Cap on the floor with his broken shield and stuff, and it kind of matches the visions Tony had in Ultron too, as we
it does, yeah.
it. And what other movie did he have the vision in?
Age of Ultron. I think it was Iron Man 3. I think
I think it may have been Iron Man 3. And then definitely that's the one that, Wanda puts in his head, or, really brings out with them all dead and stuff. So it still kind of matches that thought. And instead of trying to prevent it, he ends up causing it in this case. And for whatever reason, we don't know, they're not able to keep Vision's body, right? Like for some reason, Ultron beats them to it. He gets it. He stops whatever they were doing, and he's able to, do his thing, just like we kind of predicted last week. I thought we wouldn't see his world though, so that was wrong. But we kind of got the right part of Thanos comes and he gets the stones that way, and that he gets kind of like bored, like his mission's done, and he starts wanting to find other places, and he goes that way. I mean, those two things were pretty on point.
Yeah, I will say with him getting the stones, I was a little disappointed with how quickly he dispatched of Thanos. Just because, it's Vision's body, so it kind of leaves you asking, why didn't he do that in Infinity War? If he could just, do that.
Well, I think if I was to rectify this or, defend it, if I'm on your debate team, Jack.
Yep. Okay.
I think it would have to be that while it is his body, it is still Ultron inside there. So Ultron's goal is to stop all of that. And I think as soon as he saw him, he doesn't give Thanos a moment. He just immediately cuts him in half. I don't think Vision would operate that way. Vision is based off Jarvis, is
Right,
mostly
yep.
Jarvis, and
A bit more morality present in that.
Yes,
So
he was going to ask him about the ship of Theseus, and that's why Vision didn't survive. And in that,
compelling argument.
Yeah.
I think you'd win a debate round with that one right there.
But we have so that's kind of the setup there. But yeah, you're right. I kind of got spoiled on that, honestly. I didn't get to watch it till last night, and I saw somebody just say like, "Why didn't our Vision do that?" And I was like, "Why didn't our Vision dispatch the Thanos so quickly?" And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. I'll have to see what he does." He chops him in half with the Mind Stone. Just some of these deaths are brutal in What If. I actually really like it.
Yeah, I think that's what you can do when you have animation, right? Like you can show some more of that without having to up the rating on like the TV rating. So that's why Deadpool was rated R, because these are like on par with what you would probably see Deadpool do in like a movie, right? So
yeah, I mean, there are ways to. I mean, like Deadpool got a pretty easy edit to PG-13 for Deadpool 2.
right.
To be honest, Birds of Prey, if you've seen it, did not have to be rated R at all. When I saw that, they did some, gruesome things in there, but it was like really only like 1 or 2 scenes, and I was like, okay, they could have made this PG-13, probably sold more tickets, and actually, because Harley Quinn's a huge character for the teen girls who probably couldn't go see it.
Right.
And then while I love the Suicide Squad by James Gunn, there was some stuff that could have been that could also easily probably get cut to PG-13 as well. And now I'm starting to see people say that like Wolverine movie or X-Men movies have to be rated R. Nothing has to be rated R.
It's all about the content inside of it. That's it.
Right. I mean, most of these characters have existed in comics that are not even like rated R comics, like
right.
You can do the character justice. It's about being more creative. I mean, when you look at some of the stuff that people get away with in PG-13 movies, it's because of the suggestion, right? I mean, people are scared of Jaws, and what's that, PG? Because of just the hints of, not seeing the actual monster, not seeing the stuff. It's just the hints of the idea, But in this, you don't have to show blood at all, so it's more humorous, Like I literally cracked up when Thanos got chopped in half.
Yep.
I was like, oh, that's what they meant. Because if I hadn't known that, I probably would have been a little bit more upset, because we were talking about it last week. We're like, oh, and then Thanos would probably come and he'd have to defeat him. Like, how would he do that? And it just right in half. Because really, Thanos, if he had a moment to think, he probably should have been able to beat him, because we'd have 4 or 5, right?
5 Infinity Stones, yeah.
Against 1 Infinity Stone,
Yeah.
So,
and the Mind Stone the most powerful canonically?
No,
I don't think so. I wouldn't think it's the most. I still think the Time Stone's the most powerful, in my opinion, at least. But
for what you can do with it, yeah.
Yeah, but I get it just happens so quickly. All he says is fascinating, and then just whoop, and then just folds in half.
Ross Marquand, I think, is who played Marquand is who played Ultron in this. Not Spader, obviously.
Yeah.
At times, it felt like he was trying to do a Spader, like the fascinating sounded kind of Spader-esque.
It did,
but it wasn't quite exact. Which I don't blame him for. It's hard to do a Spader, right? I mean, if people don't know who Ross Marquand is, if I'm saying his last name right, is he is a voice actor. He also does regular acting, but he was Red Skull in Endgame because Hugo Weaving wasn't coming back. So
right,
and he did a really great Red Skull.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Really good. Let's see. So then, he gets all those stones, and he gets like the knowledge that, wait, there's other planets, and he goes to pretty much all of them, and just, he goes to the Sovereign and destroys there. And I think that's where he runs into the Guardians. Was it on Sovereign? Okay. Yeah. That's what I thought. Yeah. We see, Peter, Star-Lord, and them trying to like fight him. We see him go into Ego and even take over Ego.
like
He
in
goes to
seconds.
Asgard and Sakaar. Was there any other ones that I missed?
Xandar. He goes
Yes,
to
that's where
Xandar.
Carol comes in,
Right.
right?
Carol comes in, says the whole the Terminator line, I've seen the Killer Robot movie. I like how she calls him Skynet. I think that's a nice little touch to it. And you think for a second, oh, she's gonna win. She's punched him all the way to the center of the earth, but then it's like, you played into it. Get tricked, get pranked, and then blows up the planet from the inside, which then blows up several other planets.
Yes, yeah, it does a lot here, and I'm trying to figure out. She said she doesn't need the sequel to it. I was trying to figure out if they were trying to make a joke about Terminator sequels, but I think maybe she's making a reference to. I mean, because Terminator 2 is already a sequel, but that would have been the latest one she would have known of before she left Earth.
Right.
So I don't know if she's thinking like, because then the third one was in 2003. So I'm thinking maybe it might be a joke there about how, Terminator 2 doesn't need a sequel and stuff like that, but who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
She, I mean, I knew she wasn't going to win, obviously, because
there was a lot of runtime left.
Or
yeah.
it's pretty early into it here. But yeah, he pretty much eradicates all life except for Clint and Natasha at this point, which makes me wonder, what are they living on? Like, I was trying to think about what they would be eating. They can't get any hunting, so they'd have to be eating like canned food or something, right?
Yeah,
but would that survive a nuclear? I guess in a shelter, maybe.
Spam probably would survive it. I don't know.
Spam.
I've had that stuff before. I think it would survive any environment. So, but yeah, and before we cut back to Clint and Natasha after Ultron destroys all these planets, of course, we get Ultron saying, "Look at that, I've done it," and then the Watcher starts narrating over it, saying he's destined to live alone. Like, so how we would wrap up all the other episodes, kind of similar to the Strange Supreme episode. And then all of a sudden he's like, "Who said that?" And then he turns around and the Watcher does a quick, like the neighbor, like peeking through the blinds, like just quick closes that window closed. And because he's like, "I see you. There's more universes." So that's where it really started to get real, I think, in this one. Like all the other stuff like was totally within the realm of like what we've seen in What If before, right? But then all of a sudden it starts to cross over into this, and you that's when I was like, oh man, this is going to be a good episode.
Yeah, it was. This really starts getting the Watcher to think, right? Like, this really starts getting him to want to interfere. Like, he goes back to check on Natasha and Clint, and they're looking for the Zola files, right? To try to find out if there's another location of Zola, so that way we can, so that way they can. What the gist is, try to have him take out Ultron's data, pretty much. But they're shifting through all these files, and they're all have to doing it by paper. It's all paper trail and boxes, and they make a reference to Raiders of the Lost Ark, at the end where they that scene. So what happens is, though, he's kind of, the Watcher's thinking like, okay, this is, they're close to it, right? Like Clint is about to go to the box that's going to do it. He gives up before he finds the Zola files. And the Watcher starts kind of like, I don't know, crisis of faith, freaking out. I don't know what you would want to call it, but, he has this thought process of like, humans never give up, right? Like they're going to keep on trying. That's, he thinks very highly of humans in that regard. And, the file's right there. And the Watcher's like, the file is right there. I can interfere, and tell them it's right there. Now, Nat will go find it by herself. He doesn't have to. But do you think if it had taken a little bit longer that he would have? Especially after the scare of Ultron actually hearing him?
Ooh, that's tough. I think I don't think so. I think it takes like a little bit more because at this point Ultron hasn't figured out how to cross over into whatever dimension he's in. I have no idea what it's actually called because he seems to exist between every other universe simultaneously. But he hasn't figured out how to cross over to find the Watcher yet. So
He's pretty much in like a closet that has a million windows that he can just look into anything. It's pretty much what it looked like.
That's what it looks like. Just a giant hallway. If you've seen like the Harley Quinn animated show, like how like her memory is formatted in like an earlier episode. That's what it reminded me of almost. But yeah, I think at that point he's like, all right, don't need to intervene yet. I have some time. He's not coming through yet. Hopefully they'll just do it.
But he was very
close, yeah.
Panicky and rushed, right? I mean, he's like almost at one point like looking over his shoulder. He's like it's right there. Come on, like quickly, But Nat finds it. She finds the file. She knows about it from a callback to the Winter Soldier, when they're in the Camp Lehigh and they run into Zola on the computer there. And of course, where they're going is to the end scene of like the end of Act 3 of Civil War, right? They're going to the facility that why am I blanking on his name right now? Baron Zemo.
Yeah, Zemo. Okay.
I was gonna say Zola, and I was like, that's already but Zemo is the two. Zemo takes them to in where all the other Winter Soldiers are. Because you actually like that whole scene where Clint is going to fall is like that whole place where they have, which was really cool. But it was, it's nice seeing that place again, and they get those. This was, I think, maybe the weakest part, maybe of them just convincing Zola on how, like, to join them. They're trying to convince Zola to join them because. What does this computer program really care if he gets erased? And how would Ultron even find them? Find that place? Because he's not like an actual living thing to worry about taking out. So I do think that was the weakest part, but I did like the team up of it's Zola with Black Widow and Hawkeye, especially once he gets into the Ultron body. I thought that was cool. And then how they take out his legs so he can't like turn on them pretty much.
Yep.
Any thoughts there on the Zola or the place?
I think like I don't know. I thought that it was the weakest part, but there were some like good jokes in there, like about like Hawkeye threatening to take him out by spilling a drop of water on him.
Yeah.
I thought that was good. And then also calling to Avengers Tower to order a gluten-free crust pizza get the Ultron bots to go there and like kind of saying like, well, you got to have some humor in the apocalypse, like and also that scene where like all of the Ultron drones like bust through out as like the room is like burning is just really cool. I think that's super cool.
Yeah, that was cool. And we kind of skipped over something too with when they're looking for the file, Nat tries to make a joke, right? Or was it here? It was at some point here where Clint loses his hand, and she says about you need a hand or whatever, and he's like,
that's at the beginning, yeah.
So that's at the beginning, but then later on, when they're looking for a file, she makes another joke at something, and he's like, I'm not in the mood, like right. He's pretty much fed up with it. He doesn't want to keep going, right? Because really, he mentions it when the nuclear bomb goes off. He says his wife's name, right? Doesn't he say like Laura?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so he's thinking about his kids and his wife who were on the ground and just got obliterated by a nuclear bomb. And really, what do they have to live for? Even if they take out Ultron, what are these two going to do? Repopulate the Earth?
Not possible.
She can't have kids. Exactly.
Yeah, it's not possible.
So I mean, like, what is or are they going to try to then get the time stone from there? Or, I mean, what's their
They don't even know the time stone exists. So
that's true.
So who knows? I mean, like there really is no hope, honestly, in this. When you say it like that, it does give a little. But I guess like it kind of shows a bit of like the character of each of these characters. Like Clint is very cynical about things. Like even it shows kind of how he is in Endgame, right? He becomes super cynical after the snap and all of
Don't
that.
give me hope.
Right. So it's very reminiscent of their personalities in the rest of the MCU. And Natasha is just like, the hero DNA has kind of rubbed off on her, and like, we've got to try and help, all of that kind of stuff. And
You brought it up with
yeah.
Endgame. It actually makes me think, like you said, about that, how optimistic she was even in Endgame. Not so much like, she was always the one trying to bring everybody back. She was always
Right.
trying to do something. So I do think that fits there. But this is bleaker than the end of Infinity War.
100%.
This point.
Yeah.
So I really wonder, like, okay, you take out Ultron, you have just you and Clint. Where do you go from here? And you have maybe Zola, right? Like, eventually they're gonna die, or he's already at the point where he doesn't want to fight anymore. Like, and like you said, they probably don't know about the time stone, so it is interesting. And once they even defeat these Ultron bots, and if it was to take over main Ultron, or even if it doesn't take over main Ultron, how do they defeat main Ultron if they go up against just him with all those stones? So it is a tall task for these two Avengers.
Right. I think it's interesting. I know they kind of have to, give some purpose. Like maybe, I don't know, Scott Lang somehow survived it in like an Ant-Man suit somehow. Who knows? Or Wanda, who knows? Maybe she survived. She probably would be able to, given her power capabilities. But
yeah, at this point though, she was just learning.
True.
Ultron.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I mean, that would be. It's just bleak.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. But
and especially like every other, it's not just Earth, right? Like he went and defeated every sign of life elsewhere. Like that is terrifying. It's way worse than Thanos, which is, Thanos just wanted to take off half. This guy's trying to kill all of it.
Yep.
But Clint is going to sacrifice himself, and it's this nice parallel to Endgame, where he actually is the one to be able to make the jump and fall, and he's able to distract the bots enough or destroy them with like an arrow as he's going down. Like
it looks almost like a nuclear bomb arrow, like on the explosion that it created. Like I don't know what kind of arrow he had there, but he learned
from Ultron. He's like, I'm just gonna
he's just like, I'm gonna give you a taste of your own medicine here. But also just to mention, Hawkeye's arrows in this so much cooler than some of the ones in the MCU that we've seen. The force field arrow, like that would have been amazing to see in like I could just like imagine if that was in Avengers, like taking down a Leviathan with that thing. What we could have had,
Hey, maybe it's in Hawkeye, the show.
Maybe. I hope so.
I think that's just something that probably worked better in animation, I guess. That's the thing, is you're able to give him so many different cool gadgets. The way that it works for like, I don't know though. I mean, like Batman gets all these cool gadgets too.
Right.
Action,
and also Tony Stark is able to get like a nanobot suit.
Yeah, true.
So
yeah, I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Okay. But yeah, it was a nice reversal of Endgame where he actually is the one to sacrifice himself instead of Natasha. But the upload fails to the main body because, as Zola's going to say, there's no signal to him because wherever he is not here. So that is at the same time where he is fighting the Watcher.
Right. He finally breaks through.
He breaks into the Watcher's corridor, right? And he, starts coming at him, and I'm like, this is not good for our man Uatu, right? So, they go across like so many multiverses of Ultron just kicking his ass. It's just unrelentless, right? And the Watcher has some power too. I mean, he's got to be, if he's able to take on this Ultron, he's got to be like one of the most powerful beings in any of the universes, which was very interesting to learn that, because I was like, great, what's he gonna do against Ultron?
At first I was like, oh no, it's over, it's curtains, might as well throw in the towel here. But all of a sudden he just starts like blocking and punching and like throwing hands with Ultron, and I'm like, dang, you got some moves. You're not toasted here. He really put up a good fight, I think, and came back basically from almost dying completely, like getting his head pretty much exploded, to just teleporting away. And
yeah, he was able to distract him, right? He was able to kind of like do just enough to get away.
Right.
And where does he go?
Who knows? That's for next week's episode, I'm sure.
Well, they showed a little bit here. He went into like the little pocket dimension with Doctor Strange.
Oh, right, yeah.
Strange Supreme.
I almost forgot.
You almost forgot your boy.
I know.
Strange
I can't
Supreme.
believe it.
But yeah, which is great callback that he is like, you know where I'm going to go? One place where like this guy's not going to think to go, right? I mean, like, Ultron's too busy trying to take out life everywhere. He's not worried about one guy in this little pocket dimension thing. So he goes there and he's like, okay, I gotta, Steven makes him say like, okay, you need my help, I'm going to make you say you need my help, type of thing, right?
Yep.
And
very Doctor Strange-esque. That's true to form there.
And it's cool. He's reluctantly asking for his help, but he knows that he needs him. And this is where we'll see him start putting together the team of people that, we know as the Guardians of the Multiverse on the merchandise. And we'll see where it goes from there. But that was just a cool ending. And it really made me like, I was on the edge of my seat at times, just worried about the Watcher and what's going to happen to him. And, Ultron even throws some digs at him of like, all you do is sit and watch. Like, you're not actually like doing it. You have all this power and you're not using it. And, the Watcher says, well, I made an oath. I can't interfere. We're going to see him break that oath now. He's already started by recruiting.
Yep. And like I said at the beginning of this series, I said I had read a few of the What If comics just to prepare for it. And I said, Watu interferes. He's going to find a way to do it. And there we go. It's finally happening. So I had a feeling it was going to happen, but we finally saw it officially start to go into place, I guess you could say.
Yeah, which is great, and it makes sense. And we kind of talked about it last week or a few weeks ago. I don't remember anymore. When we were kind of predicting where the show was going, what will make him interfere. It was this threat of the multiverse, coming undone, because, I mean, look, we all have had boring nights where we're like, there's nothing to watch. There's nothing on TV. Now imagine if Ultron defeats all these universes, what's the Watcher going to watch?
Yeah. Nothing.
Going to sit there and stare at the stars?
I mean, he'd probably be dead in this scenario. If
he probably
destroys
would.
Everything.
Just imagine he isn't. Like, he lives out and he's just like, oh, nothing to watch today.
Yeah. Just imagine him like, wiping back and forth on like the windows. Hello, universes,
He's like trying to go through channels. He's like,
yep.
Nothing here either.
No signal. God, the satellite must be broken.
Yeah, Ultron, can you fix that for me?
Yeah. But there were some really cool Easter eggs in this one too. I think some that appeared in this episode.
Go ahead. Yeah, I haven't.
Yeah.
Catch any of them.
One of them so we already talked about one of like the Star Wars references with the missing arm, but in the scene where Ultron is taking the Watcher like through several different multiverses, right? There's a scene that looks almost exactly like Mustafar, and if you look closely, there's a structure that very much resembles Darth Vader's castle in the background there from I know it mostly from the VR series of games Vader Immortal, but if you look in there, you'll see it, which I thought was a pretty cool little detail that that they threw in there, whether it's intentional or not. Given that Disney owns both Star Wars and Marvel, I think it's a possibility that it's an intentional one, but definitely a cool little thing to see.
I did not catch that, so that is that is interesting. Oh yeah, we saw Korg too. Once a car.
Right, we did.
What else was I thinking? I just saw. Oh yeah, but the we saw the Red Guardian shield.
Right.
That's what Black Widow uses. That's really cool. We also saw President Steve Rogers.
Right. Yep.
Which was really cool. I think too bad that universe is probably dead now. But so in that, do you think he still like Cap and came back to life from the ice because it looked modern times, and then like became president for whatever reason? Like, I'm trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I wonder if this is like a version where like the snap happens and like, you know, everyone like all of the leaders in the US like die or something. And since Steve is like, it's kind of like the show Designated Survivor, except it goes all the way through like the US government, and Steve is like the only person ever related to the government that's just there. Who knows?
Somebody poisoned like everyone, and they're like, well, I guess we have to resort to
Steve
Captain
Rogers.
America as president.
Yeah. Or
he's
or
the
it's just
100th and 50th in succession here.
yeah. I kind of wish it was a President Loki reference or something like that. I think that would have been a perfect opportunity to do that. But
I think though the issue was, from what I've heard, is the reason why like the writer came out and said that maybe, you know, when we talked about absolute points in Doctor Strange episode, they said it probably should have been Nexus points, even though it doesn't make any sense. But they said that the Loki scripts obviously weren't written at the time that they were doing this. Because they have to do animation so far ahead of time. So I think,
well, but President Loki existed in 2016, so
like in the comics,
comic.
right? Yeah. But I mean, like, if they were going to do a reference to the President Loki in the MCU,
I guess, yeah.
Another Star Wars reference, of course, is, you know, when they're looking for the plans and stuff, Hawkeye says that the Death Star plans are not in the main computer, which is a reference to a stormtrooper talking to Darth Vader.
Lots of Star Wars love in this episode.
I mean, they're like the two best franchises, right? So you gotta,
honestly,
put them in there.
Yeah, that's fair.
Let's see. Oh, I liked we didn't even talk about when the Watcher like put on his whole suit with the cape and everything. That was,
oh yeah, that was sick.
Great.
That looks pretty cool.
Oh yeah, and like Ultron like eating. It kind of becoming like Galactus, right?
Yeah, it even looked like he had like the outline of like the Galactus, I don't know, headgear. What it
kind of looked like it. Yeah.
It very much looked like it. So I thought that I can't believe I forgot about that, because that was a pretty cool shot too.
Oh, and somebody pointed out Pineapple Shirt Guy, who was in the last episode when Thor landed in Vegas and he kind of looked startled. He was in this episode,
right.
As well, when Ultron sends Uatu crashing down on an alternate Earth. But What If concludes next week, so you know it is nice that we were able to get that background on Ultron, so that way it's not just a character out of nowhere, and that we're gonna get all these characters back again to wrap this up. I'm assuming it's just going to be 30 minutes. I'm not going to go look. And here's the thing, that they can make the time work. It's all about pacing, because this was the shortest one yet. I think this was 30 minutes exactly, without credit, before credit. I mean, with credits.
Yeah,
it was 30 minutes, and I had no complaints about the pacing. And I actually thought it fit. It didn't feel rushed, and it didn't feel long. So I thought it felt pretty great. And if they could do this, some of the times when we talked about zombies, or we talked about like most of these episodes, it either feels super rushed or dragged out. Like last week with Party Thor felt a little dragged out at times, while like zombies, like we thought we were going to get more, and then they just cut off like, nope, they're flying to Wakanda. I mean, now though, we'll see if that paid off with this episode. If we are really going to get continuations of all of them next week, it could be it could make me feel overall a little better about those stories. And when you go back and watch season 1 of What If, it may now be like this perfect 9-episode story where everything connects and we don't have any more complaints. I'll be really curious to see how it makes the other episodes better, because that's what the MCU is about, right? Like, this is, I talk about it all the time when people ask me the most improved movie, when you talk about, that benefits from having these other movies going forward, it almost is Age of Ultron, because of at the time it was very bogged down by references where you're like, okay, that'll be great in 5 years. And it is now. I mean, like, you get Ulysses Claw, you get Wakanda references with Steve, with Bruce reading about Wakanda. You get, Wanda, which now we have a little bit more background on. Vision, like, those are introduced in that movie. And there's like all these tie-ins to things that'll pay off later. The Infinity War really, I think, boosted that movie as well. Another one people can sometimes say is Dark World, in the sense of like they really made it a plan, I think, to make Dark World relevant.
Yeah.
And in Endgame, it really pays off. And it's because of, and I'll tell you, Dark World still kind of sucks though. When I watch it,
it does.
Even after Endgame, I'm like,
I think it's still the weakest MCU movie if I had to pick one.
But you know what I liked about it? What I like about the MCU is that, unlike other franchises, if something doesn't work, they don't just toss it away. They will still reference it. They will still make it work. I mean, look, we still get references to the Incredible Hulk, which had a whole recast thing. We still got Thunderbolt Ross from it. We're getting episodes about it on What If. We've had Abomination shows up in Shang-Chi, and he was in Incredible Hulk. Like, they're not like shunning it aside saying that doesn't matter. They still make ties to it because it's still part of the universe. And I like that. I mean, because sometimes when we talk about Star Wars and the sequels, they course correct it too much at times. Like, I like The Last Jedi. Ooh, people are gonna probably freak out about that, but I do. And I like Rise of Skywalker as well. I'm somebody that likes all three, but
I'm on the same page. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We talked about it off air, but yeah. So people know Jack is in the same boat as me here, but at times it seems like the thought process is like, almost like, let's not even reference Last Jedi at this rate, because people are just going to freak out about it. And like, how many times, and here's a clear part of it too, I love the prequels. People are going to love me. I love all 9 films, right? So
they're all good. They all have good things about them.
And I grew up in a time where the prequels were coming out. So they were really my thing growing up. But this is a better example than the sequels, I think. How when Disney bought them, they didn't put out like any prequel stuff at all for a while. They canceled Clone Wars. They said, we're making Rebels, which is going to take place, you guessed it, between 3 and 4, which is when the Empire's around. Battlefront comes out, it only has original trilogy stuff. Like, they went hard in onto it because they knew that the people that they were targeting was people that only liked the original trilogy at that point, because they're like, we're going to relaunch with 7, 8, 9, and it's going to be, guess what? The Empire's back, but they're stormtroopers, but they're not the Empire. Like, people, that's what they were trying to press, and they were trying to shun away any prequel stuff. But lately, thankfully, they've been bringing the prequel stuff back in. Clone Wars got to finish their run. Ahsoka's in a live-action Mandalorian show. Like Bo-Katan's in a live-action Mandalorian show. Like, they really started bringing in stuff from the prequels again, and it's starting to feel more like a solid 9-film arc over time, which is great. But the MCU just always did that. The MCU is like, you didn't like Dark World? Tough. Like, we're going to reference it, and it's going to be in the biggest movie of all time with Endgame. Like, they didn't care. And I really admire that. And they just go with their plan, and they say, this is what we're going to do. They may make little tweaks, like remember Loki was supposed to die in Dark World, but then he was so popular, they're like, we're gonna keep him. Like,
Yeah.
and that's fine. That's stuff people wanted, you know? While sometimes other franchises, DCEU even, will course correct and say, let's not even acknowledge that. And that becomes this whole thing of people that like the thing don't know how to act, and people that don't like the thing don't know how to act. At least with the MCU, you know, all right, Dark World counts. As much as I don't like it, it counts, you know? And not that I hate it that much. I'm just saying, like, if there was somebody that really hated it, you know, they have to know it's still part of canon. I have to deal with it, whatever. So there's my soapbox. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what makes the MCU so great. It's that every film gets enhanced by the ones that come after it. So I think that's what makes it the most successful and probably one of the most viewable franchises like that. Because literally all the movies have just gotten better over time. I can't think of one that's gotten like way worse over time. Like even Iron Man 2, which is probably one of the weakest movies.
No. I will not stand for Iron Man 2 slander. Is one of the best MCU movies.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. It has one of my... Okay, I just talked about how I didn't like Killmonger like 2 weeks ago, right? It is one of my favorite MCU villains in Justin Hammer. I love Justin Hammer that's much. When I think Iron Man 2, I think him dancing out onto the stage as he's coming from off stage, and I love it. But I don't actually have a problem with Iron Man 2. For me, the weakest Iron Man is Iron Man 3, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, no. That is probably the weakest one. But you know, even those movies, which are, I think we can agree that they're weaker than the first one.
Yeah. But like the thing is, with Iron Man 2, you're right. Perception-wise, outside of my thoughts, a lot of people have it ranked pretty bottom.
Yeah, but it's just gotten better over time because they make callbacks to some of the stuff in it, and you know, the whole thing with like you know, What If called back to Iron Man 2 in there. So you know, I think that's really nice that we actually see some of this get addressed, and also Endgame made, you know, a small callback to Iron Man 3 by including Harvey in the funeral scene, right? So
yes.
you know, I think that's what just makes the MCU so good. And
even Spider-Man Homecoming,
Far From Home, making an Iron Man 1 reference with Peter Billingsley's character getting yelled at by what's his name? By Obadiah Stane, you know? Right.
About the box of scraps, and he's like one of Mysterio's goons. And you're like, people hated that in the sense of they were like, why does Spider-Man characters always have to be intersected with Iron Man? But what I liked, I was like, this is the MCU. Like, this is a cool little callback that guy that worked for Tony Stark is now also with Mysterio, who is going up against Spider-Man. Like, it just worked for me.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm excited to see how they make all of these universes for the finale of What If crossover. Because, you know, we know it's going to happen. I'm excited to see how they do it. And, you know, I'm also excited to see how they end up beating Ultron, because I'm pretty confident that this will end up with them beating Ultron. Like that, I'm pretty confident, because otherwise
there's no season 2 if not.
There's no season 2, and there's no way to connect it to the rest of the MCU. So they have to defeat him somehow. Right, like
he'll go to our universe and just destroy the Prime.
Prime
universe.
So that's the thing. Like we know that there is that you know, he's going to get defeated one way or another. Because so I'm excited. I'm interested to see how they manage to do it, because out of all of the people they're summoning for the Guardians of the Multiverse, the only one that I can think of right off the top of my head who can like probably deal with him the best is probably Strange Supreme.
Like, because he ate all those creatures.
Yeah. And himself. I mean, like it's
and
so it's that's I mean, maybe he just absorbs Ultron. Maybe that's what he does.
Ooh, that'd be too easy, but that would be cool.
it would be kind of cool. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to see how it works out.
The only thing I've seen from the trailers of these characters interacting is Strange Supreme interacting with Party Thor, talking about zombies. That is the only so that's 3 of the episodes linked together there, but I don't know. I guess they're going to use the zombies as some sort of distraction for something. I don't know. But the zombies are not going to be able to eat Ultron bots, right? So I don't know how that would really work.
Yeah.
But that's like the only thing I think I've seen in those. Other than that, we've seen like Ego absorbing Peter, and we've seen the Avengers circled together, like the Guardians of the Multiverse circled together, and we've seen Shuri and Pepper running in Wakanda. So I'm trying to figure out. So I think there was only that one clip in that trailer that had 3 episodes tied together. The other ones were like almost just continuations of those episodes. So,
well, I just thought of 2 ideas then for how this could end up. Like with the zombies, the question is, are they dead or alive? And maybe they use that, and that just like short circuits some of the Ultron drones because they can't tell if like it's life and they have to eliminate it, or if it's dead, so it's fine.
That's true.
So maybe it's something like that, or the funniest thing imaginable, or maybe not funniest, but the weirdest thing imaginable, I think, is just T'Challa just going up and being like, "Yo, could you not do that?" And like he's
talks him out of it.
Just talks about, and Ultron's like, you know what? That's a good point. Hadn't thought of that. Thank you.
Oh my god, that would make so many people mad.
It would.
They're already calling T'Challa Star-Lord like a Gary Stu instead of a Mary Sue. So like that would really upset people, but I would laugh. I would laugh and be like,
it would be hilarious.
I would clap to that. I'd be like, you know what? That's in character for that T'Challa.
Yep.
And maybe not in character for Ultron, but it's in character for T'Challa. I don't know. I really wonder how they'll wrap this up in 30 minutes, because we're going to get those brief. So I'm guessing those little continuations are going to be the moments where maybe the Watcher comes
picked
in
up by the Watcher,
and gets picked up. Though the Ego one is not even where T'Challa is, so it'll be interesting why we see a continuation of that.
Maybe Ego ends up allying with
that's
that.
true.
Maybe that's who T'Challa talks into joining up with them. Maybe that's what it is. He's like, hey, you have a whole planet. You want to just like take out this evil genocidal robot guy?
Yes, because guess what? He ate you in another universe.
Yeah.
So we kind of need
you're gonna want some revenge, man. You're gonna want some revenge, so
it'll be interesting. I'm really excited to see how this ends. And
this
is our last time speculating, because next episode, like, I don't know if it'll probably wrap up. Like, I don't think they'll have a cliffhanger for season 2, so we'll probably not have anything to speculate on.
I mean, I'm still the only. I guess like we know about 1 episode technically in season 2.
Yeah, supposedly Tony on Sakaar.
Or maybe 2, because we haven't gotten Thanos Gamora, unless she comes into the fray because of like, Thanos dying.
She may have been in that. That may have been her episode still, maybe.
So we don't know. There's a possibility. There's still possibility for speculation, I think, and we could also try and think about what kinds of situations they could come up with. We want to see
next year, right?
Yeah.
Or whenever air it or whatever. Yeah.
Imagine if they're just like season 2 starts next week, and I'd give it a round of applause right there.
That'd be great, but then I'd be like, I thought I had a break before Hawkeye. I need this break.
I don't think they have enough time to put it in between there, because it would have to be a 9-week segment.
Yes,
between now and Hawkeye, and I don't think there's enough time in between there. So
something to think about too, which will be interesting, is Hawkeye ends on the day Book of Boba Fett premieres, which is just, I think, because they wanted to make sure they said Boba Fett came out in 2021, because it's literally December 29. So I think that's literally the only reason. But I don't like this whole Wednesday thing. I like Wednesday thing for Marvel, but I wish they kept Star Wars stuff on Friday. Like, why do they want us to interact with their app only one day a week. Like,
yeah,
if you put it on Wednesday, then we talk about Hawkeye for Wednesday, and then 2 days later we're back on there talking about Boba Fett. Like, I don't know why they don't do that, and it would lessen server load. I don't understand it.
Baffling business decision, honestly, because they could make so much more money because, the more people are looking in the app to find what they want, the more different searches they'll encounter. Like, maybe it's like an old Disney movie that they didn't know that they had forgotten about, and like, so
like Black Cauldron's on here.
that would make me want to watch it. Yeah,
that is the definition of a forgotten.
For good reason, I think. I think there's a reason why that one's forgotten. But it's weird because Disney is so good at maximizing revenue and profits in every other category, except for their streaming service. Everything else is like there
has to be something that's telling them that Wednesday was the day to go, because they tried it out with Loki, and then every show since then is on Wednesdays, unless if it already premiered beforehand. Like Bad Batch started out on Fridays and continued on Fridays till it ended. But since Loki, it's been on Wednesdays only. And I don't know why. I really think I would like to see where they're getting it from, because I really would think that you would want the same way that TV stations put on shows on different days, right?
Right.
You would want to get one, you don't have to worry about the server load because it crashes sometimes when people try to watch Mando. Imagine Mando and a big Marvel show on the same day, which is pretty much what this is. Hawkeye and a Hawkeye finale and a Book of Boba Fett premiere.
Oh boy.
And you're worried like, how is that going to work? Because some people stay up till 3 a.m. to watch both. Which one are they going to watch first? It's like, now I have to figure that out on that Wednesday. Okay, am I watching Hawkeye when I get home? Or am I watching Book of Boba Fett when I get home? Probably Book of Boba Fett, honestly.
Well, I guess it depends on how good the Hawkeye series ends up being, doesn't it?
It looks really good, though.
Yeah, so there is that. And yeah, I think I want to do if I'm Disney, I want to do an audit of the market research section at Disney, because something's not adding up on this for whatever reason.
We found a study that said if you put every show on Wednesday, that is it. They will just watch that all day on Wednesday. It's like, okay, but what about the rest of the week? Well, you'll be releasing so much on Wednesday that they have to come back on Thursday.
I can just imagine like some intern just got assigned like, hey, just write a summary of this report on like releasing video streaming service episodes on different days of the week, and he just messed it up or something. Like
were they worried about Netflix releasing on Fridays? That's
maybe that could be it, actually. Because Netflix does release on Fridays for new stuff. But it's
like, it worked for Mando, so I don't understand where you're like, we're doing this wrong. Like this, like that's what I wonder. It's like, what made them all of a sudden think Fridays are no good, man? Because even like Falcon and Winter Soldier was Fridays. WandaVision was Fridays. That was hyped up. People were watching all that. I mean, like, and I think when you put Loki as the launch on Wednesday, you're skewing the results, aren't you? Because Loki was one of the most popular MCU characters that you're like, okay, well, if this doesn't outperform every show, we kind of messed up, right? I mean, like, so it was always going to do well on Wednesdays.
Right,
Loki,
right.
So I don't know.
So maybe it's not the market research that needs some looking at. Maybe it's whoever is doing statistics at Disney. If the case is that they did the statistics wrong, they weren't thinking about the studies right. I'm pretty good at statistics, Disney. Just hand it over to me. It'll be fine. I think. Just make sure to I'll do it. It's fine.
Because the only thing I worry about now is like with Wednesday. Then if I can't watch it Wednesday, I have to try to avoid spoilers on Thursday, or like at least with Friday, like I had Saturday and Sunday as well to watch something.
Right.
But enough complaining from me. I'm sorry to make this episode long, but if you want to follow Jack, where can they follow you?
They can follow me at JCPrasad16 on Twitter or you can check out at Final Third Show on Twitter if you're interested in soccer podcasts. Make sure to check out at Stoppage Time Show and at Stateside Show as well.
Those are mine. Yes.
Yep, I've got to shout out Jordan's as well because they're fantastic as well. But you can follow me on either of those platforms.
And if you want to follow this show, that is on Twitter at TO Infinity Saga, Facebook.com/Infinity Saga Beyond, or email us marvelplusrecaps@gmail.com. And we thank you for listening, and we'll catch you for the finale of What If.